So, over the course of the past 12 years, there's been this ongoing debate amongst nerds who love movies and just nerds in general. And that would be, is the Transformer series any good? Out of the six movies released, are they all good? Are they all bad? Or they're somewhere in between? You have people from all fronts, but I think most people would argue that they're in between. There's been maybe one or two, maybe three good ones, and then there's been three bad ones. My personal take on it is Transformers 1, 3, and Bumblebee were good. 2, 4, and 5 were not. Now, you may disagree with me about the third movie, but look, they went pretty hardcore with that one and the whole Chicago thing, so I have a lot of respect for it. Plus, it looked really great in 3D when it came out in 2011. But the point I'm trying to get through here is that Michael Bay has been a key factor in almost all of this, even Bumblebee. Even though he was purposefully excluded from Bumblebee outside of being a producer, I don't think he had much to do with it. They very much tried to move away from what Michael Bay had done leading up to The Last Knight, which ultimately to me says like he kind of stopped caring right around the fourth movie, but Paramount just kept throwing money at him and he's like, all right, I'll just phone it in, which he totally did. So now that Bumblebee is out, which by the way, I just want to quickly point out, now that Bumblebee is out and Paramount did do very little in order to to give any fanfare for this movie coming out on home video. I went out last week to shoot the episode of Blu-ray Therapy, hoping to find some kind of cool stand-up somewhere or some cool little tidbits, and there wasn't anything. I mean, there was a banner. Woo, you know what I mean? Like there was nothing else that ultimately came that was interesting outside of the Best Buy Steelbook for Bumblebee, which looked freaking awesome. That one I recommend if you want to get your hands on that. But otherwise, for a movie that they claim to be profitable and meant to be the future of Transformers, they didn't do a lot to really push it on home video, which is where now the money for it's going to come. So I find that to be a little bit odd. But anyway, Transformers 6, Bumblebee 2, this is where the future of the franchise is going, and a lot of people are curious as to where things might end up. Well, according to the producer, Lorenzo Di Bonaventura, he confirms Michael Bay is out. He's done directing it. It says here, I don't blame him. Truth of the matter is, nobody blames him. Nobody also wants him either. Now, when he was asked if the studio is looking for new directors for Transformers 6 or hoping they can still make Michael Bay an offer to return, he says, I think Bay has made it really clear that he loved what he did, but he's not doing it anymore. So I think the answer is we're writing a script. At that point, once we get a script we have a strong belief in, then we begin to debate that. Michael has made it clear he didn't want to do it. I don't blame him. He spent a hell of a decade of his life shooting them, which is very true. He did. He spent 10 years making these movies, all just ultimately to be completely shit on by a lot of people out there. You can't really blame Michael Bay for maybe wanting to take a couple steps back from the Transformers franchise, because he made some movies that had some good, had a lot of bad, but in the end he just didn't care, and I think they don't want to go back down that path. And one of the only reasons why they kept bringing Michael Bay in to make these movies is the Transformers films kept grossing $1 billion. They did. People kept going to see them all the while saying, God, this sucks. I think The Last Knight, though, really kind of struck a chord. A lot of people were just kind of burnt out on what Michael Bay was giving us, which is why they went with Travis Knight and his pitch for Bumblebee, which Bumblebee, while a fun movie, and I do chalk it up to being one of the good ones, is still not as good as the first or third movie, in my opinion, predominantly because I felt that the writing was atrocious, the characters were kind of and it ultimately felt like they were just trying to make like an Ivan Reitman movie based around the early 90s. You know, when Ivan Reitman was doing Beethoven is how I kind of view Bumblebee. That same kind of, this is a family film, you know, but it needs a little bit of Bayhem, as I've talked about before. And people agreed with me, people disagreed with me. I think Armin from Comic Book Cast was like, no, Bumblebee was perfect the way it was. We don't need any more Transformer. We don't need any more Michael Bay. No, that's not true, because here's the thing with Bumblebee. Outside of like a couple action sequences, it was kind of boring. It wasn't about Bumblebee as much as it was about Charlie and Charlie's wanting to overcome the death of her father and learn to dive again. That was like literally her journey in the movie, which is one of the reasons why I say that the writing was atrocious, because we don't really care about this girl. We're caring more about Bumblebee, but his story takes a backseat to her story, which I get why they did that in regards to, let's say, like the whole Sam Witwicky thing from the first few films. But that was kind of an interesting progression. Here, not so much. And again, kind of tackling it from this really surface level early 90s child's film perspective that was trying to play it too safe. They can't do that going forward. And even with whatever they're doing for Transformers 6, they still cannot play it safe. When Ashley asked if Transformers 6 was going to be a direct sequel to The Last Knight, Lorenzo here says, no, it's not. It's done. So whatever arc or whatever trajectory Michael Bay had taken Transformers, that's now dead. That's now gone. What they're doing is they're moving over to something probably more akin with what we got out of Bumblebee. Now, if you got the home, if you got the home video, you know that there's a motion comic on there with a major spoiler in the end. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it would tie into the first film. And so I don't know if they're going to kind of retell us the first story, but set it, instead of being in 2007, set it in 1987. Because you got to remember, it's 20 years between the first movie, or Bumblebee, and the first Transformers. So if they want to turn Bumblebee into a franchise, they're just going to go back and retcon all the time periods, maybe set it in the early 1990s. Charlie's a little bit older, living on her own, not with her parents. And you know, whatever's going to happen, who's going to know? But it does make it appear that they are trying to go back with Bumblebee to the beginning, and they're going to try to start over again because they realize that Michael Bay being let to do what Michael Bay did was ultimately going to damage the franchise. And so I think that they went a little bit too simple, a little bit too rudimentary with Bumblebee. And so I'd like a little bit more complexity with the characters and definitely a little bit more action for the future. But I am happy that Michael Bay is not involved. You know, I would like to see Travis Knight come back, and I'd like to see him tackle it like he did with Kubo and the Two Strings, bringing a beautifully shot movie, a beautifully crafted film with a lot of nuance and heart. Bumblebee wasn't that, and I was hoping it was, which is my complaint with it. But anyway, I leave it to you. Are you happy that Michael Bay's out? Are you hoping that he might come back to oversee it a little bit, to help with the Bayhem? And I mean, I think deep down, you may want the Bayhem because that's kind of what made the franchise cool. You know, what they did in Bumblebee was very isolated in its action, and it was kind of boring. Whereas whatever you want to say about the storylines of the Michael Bay movies, at least they looked pretty freaking cool. So anyway, I leave it to you, your thoughts, your opinions. Let me know down below. I will talk to you guys later. And let me know if you guys like this green screen setup I got here. I might change it up. I'm just testing things out today. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great one, and peace out.